Welcome to Haunted Hospitality, Southern Stories Told by Spooky Gingers. I'm Robin.
And I'm Zoey.
And we both have stories for you today.
Yes, we're continuing our Haunted College Tour Palooza.
Yeah. So today we are covering the great state of North Carolina.
Yes.
But before we get into that, Zoey, how's life?
Life's good. I'm kind of nervous because my belt test is next weekend.
I'm so excited for you.
Oh, thank you. I'm testing to be an orange belt. I've been doing my flashcards because you have to know like a lot of like technical things. Like I have to know how to count to 10 in Japanese, and I have to know the first 10 of the 20 guiding principles of karate, and I have to know who Jichin Funakoshi is and things like that. And it's actually kind of funny because I've been doing the flashcards, and I was talking to somebody, and she said kumite, and I'm like, what the heck is kumite? And then I realized she was talking about sparring. I was like, oh, she means kumite. Oh, I've been pronouncing that in my head incorrectly. And
well, now you know.
Yes, but I'm scared because I'm studying technically a different language without anybody verbalizing it really to me. And so I'm reading it on a page and I'm like, yeah, that says kumite, not kumite. Anyway, but I'm excited and nervous. Though a good sign is that Gene did, while I was practicing my
Gene!
Yes. While I was practicing my kata the other day, he looked at my belt to see what size it was. So he can order a new,
Yeah,
so that's
he
a good
believes
sign.
in you.
Yes.
I believe in you. You are moving up these ranks very quickly.
Yes. And actually, by the time this episode comes out, I've already done the test, and I should already know if I'm orange belt or not.
All right. Future Zoe's come through.
Yep.
Okay.
What about you, Robin? How's life?
Oh, it's good. So, for people who, it was like right before the pandemic, Love is Blind came out. The Netflix show where people talk to each other through a wall and then get engaged without having seen each other.
Oh, this is like a reality show.
Yes, it is a reality show. Well, so it was basically, it aired a year after it was filmed. And so they just put out a reunion that for them is 2 years, but for us is 1 year. And I watched it, and I got to see like where everybody is. Well, okay, here's what happened. It's 3 episodes, and I've seen the first 2. And Zoe, started watching them at like 11:30 last night. Uh-huh. So I was like, I'm just gonna watch a little bit of 1, and then that didn't happen. And then there was a gut punch at the end of episode 1. So do you want to know who I'm hardcore judging right now?
The host.
No, they're not even.
Okay.
I think this show realized how irrelevant the hosts were.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm hardcore judging Damien. Other people who are watching this, they know what I mean. Okay. I'm hardcore judging Damien. I haven't seen the 3rd episode, but I'm just like, Gigi, get yourself someone. There are so many people who would love to be with you. Just Gigi, leave. I don't know.
I'm so lost right now.
I know you are. These are just my thoughts, my personal thoughts watching this. I think, Gigi, you deserve the world. Go get it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So if you know Gigi, tell her to listen to this.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm speaking to like she's listening, because she's definitely not. But no. Good wishes to her. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. That's my life update.
Okay.
It has absolutely nothing to do with me.
All right. Well, thank you.
Can you share your something spooky with us, please?
Yes, I do. So I was trying to come up with like, so you know how something southern and something spooky is like the segment,
Yeah, I do know how this works.
Well, yes, but that's the title of the segment.
Yeah.
I was trying to find a name for this sub-segment. So this is like a type of something spooky.
Oh, okay. So it's like something spooky type A :
Yeah. So the only thing I could come up with was Creature Corner. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that. We'll test run it. We'll see how people respond.
I'm happy for you.
Okay, thank you. In this Creature Corner name, potentially to be changed, I'm going to give you a quick 5-minute rundown of some sort of mythological creature or cryptid or something like that.
Oh, so this is like ongoing.
Yeah. So
I
this can
love
happen.
this.
You can do it. I can do it. You know, I was like, I don't want to do vampire or werewolf.
I want to do vampire. I want to do werewolf.
On the first one.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for letting me finish my sentence.
I'm zipping my lips and I'm throwing away the key.
Please do. No, I'm kidding. That would ruin this podcast. Anyway, so today's creature is something you only really know if you're a weeb or if you're Japanese. This is the Kappa, Kappa. It is a Japanese demon. They are typically described as green-skinned, human-like beings with webbed hands and feet. And they have turtle-like shells on their backs. They are depicted usually as the size of a child, and another name for them, it directly translates to river boys.
I love that.
Yes, and they're usually seen as purely masculine. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a feminine depiction of a Kappa.
Okay.
While they're small, they are considered stronger than a grown man, I say in quotation marks, just because that's... Anyway, they're stronger than the average person. Let's just say that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important distinction about them is that, like, the top of their heads is shaped like a bowl. And in this bowl is water from the river in which they live. And if that water spills or dries out, then the Kappa becomes weakened. So they can't really venture far from their rivers because then the water will dry out and they won't be able to get back. And it has to be from their home river. It can't be from any other river.
I like that loyalty.
Another interesting fact about them is that they have 3 anuses that allow them to pass 3 times as much gas as a human.
What?
Yep. They have 3 anuses so they can fart more.
And
that's very important, Robin.
Okay. I was not expecting that.
Well, you're going to love this next bullet point.
Oh, gosh.
So, they assault humans in their territory, aka a river, their river, so that they can remove a fake organ called the shiri kodama, which is supposedly a glowing ball that is said to contain your soul. And this organ is located in your anus. Yes. So, if the Kappa takes your shiri kodama, they will gain your power. And I'm assuming you'll die.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Or just go around as a soulless person for forever.
Potentially.
Like after you get the Dementor's kiss.
Exactly. I was telling Kari about this, and Robin, tell me if you want me to take this out. But he's like, oh, so they eat ass? Yeah.
We can keep that.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So they're either depicted as creatures who are just mischievous. They'll look up a woman's skirt. But sometimes they're considered beasts that will drown, kill, kidnap, rape, and eat people. Or they're helpful little beings that will help you on your way.
I feel like I'm really going to need to know which one of those 2 categories they are.
Yeah. But a fun fact about Kappa is that they love cucumbers. So in the olden times, if somebody had to cross the river, their loved ones would write their name on a cucumber and float it down the river. And so the Kappa will eat the cucumber and let the person pass.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Another way to defeat a Kappa is, despite being a beast, they are very, very polite. So if you see one and it's coming at you, all you have to do is really do a really deep bow at it, and it will bow back. Unfortunately, when it bows back, all the water spills from its head, and it will remain in that bowed position. It can't stand back up. And so you've defeated the Kappa. And also, if you go to its river, take some water, and refill the bowl in its head, it's now indentured to you for the rest of its life. It's now your servant.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was surprisingly easy to defeat.
Yes. It's just they're very quick and very strong.
You might not have time to bow to it before it gets to you.
Exactly. And if they're mischievous and they hide, they might get you before you can see them.
So you know what I would do in this situation?
Yes.
I would walk along the river, just permanently bowed forward.
Just constantly.
Constantly.
Yep.
Yeah. Might hit my head on a few trees, but
yeah.
It's fine.
But that was a 5-minute look into what a Japanese kappa is.
Thank you, Zoe. And I'm very glad that was a debut for our Creature Corner.
Yep. The 3 anuses.
Yep.
Okay,
well, Zoe, you also have a story for us.
Yes, I'll be going first this time. All right, for today's episode, I do want to just give a content warning of suicide. It's in my story and Robin's story. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, with these colleges, that seems to be the number one way a ghost gets there.
Or at least the number one story made up about why the ghost gets there.
True.
Oftentimes, these are not actually substantiated.
True, that is true. Mm-hmm. My North Carolina college is the Salem College. And before you yell at me and say that Salem is in Massachusetts, no, it's also in North Carolina.
It's now Winston-Salem.
Yes, it's Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and this is Salem College. It was recommended to us by our friends over at the Tea and Terror podcast, which I just adore their cover art. Like, just first glance at their cover art, it's just so great because it's like a bloody knife with a teddy bear and it's pastels.
Yeah.
It's great. But anyway, so yes, Salem College is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It was established in 1772 as a primary school for little girls. Then it became a boarding school for teenage girls. And then finally a women's college in 1890. It's still a women's college today, with the exception of their continuing education program, so long as the men are 23 or older. So this is a program for like non-degree searching people. Oh, yeah. Just you want to take a class here and there. They actually come from a branch of Protestant, like it's like a tiny branch. Basically, the founders of this were 2 nuns. And they walked all the way from Pennsylvania with the idea that women deserve an education too.
They were Protestant nuns?
They weren't Protestant. It was like
Messianic?
Messianic, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they were considered progressive for their time. This isn't in my notes, so I apologize for like riffing on it. But there was apparently there were 2 little enslaved girls who were freed and given an education there by the founders. Mm-hmm. And then they had quite a few Native American girls who studied there as well. So they were considered like, you let in non-white children and you're educating girls?
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah. So the oldest building was constructed in 1785. It has had additions and renovations since then, but that is actually called the Single Sisters House, and those were the 2 founders. They built that house to live in. They don't have a mascot. However, their colors are blue and yellow, and they are known as the Salem Spirits. So the ghosts. There wasn't much history on that one. So generally, students will have computers turned on and off randomly. There was one student who got stuck in the closet at one of the dorms. The door wasn't jammed or locked, and she was stuck in there, much like you were locked in your bedroom a couple days ago.
I got out.
But
did she get out?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, she did. Salem College really embraces their ghosts because they're even called the spirits, you know. So they have this outdoor amphitheater called May Dell, and on night 1 of orientation, you know, the thing that you have to do to go to college, they will bring the girls like at night to the amphitheater and give them ice cream and tell them ghost stories. Like, older students will come and be like, hey, this is a ghost story that happened to me on campus.
Okay, do you know how much I wish our orientation was that?
I know, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I would have traded that night, very late night in Strom for this any day.
I forgot about... What do we even do in Strom? We just were in Strom.
Yeah, there was music and games that you could play, and there was a pool, and you could sit and talk to people.
I vaguely remember that. I remember leaving it more than anything.
Well, I was an orientation leader, so I remember many nights of it.
Yeah.
I probably honestly wouldn't remember my orientation experience if I wasn't an orientation leader myself.
Okay.
But anyway, so yeah, they tell ghost stories, and upperclassmen will come and share their own personal stories. And these stories always include 2 ghosts that are at the amphitheater. So one is a woman in white who haunts the Maydell. She will walk around and she will suddenly disappear. There's no story behind her, but she's seen as a friendly spirit. However, there is also a very, very not so friendly spirit that lives under a bridge right next to the Maydell, and it's seen as nothing but a black cloud, and it has this ominous feel to it. So everybody stays far away from that. All right. So this is going to be a lot of different locations with 1 ghost each. So I'm going to hop around, okay?
Okay. Like a bunny.
Like a bunny. Or a butterfly.
Or a butterfly.
Flitting. Just flitting left and right.
Flitting.
Okay. So the first one is the Gramley Library. Apparently 2 girls were killed in an electrocution accident in 1907. And
was electricity even a thing?
In 1907?
Probably.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And the girls were, they died in the electrocution accident, and people to this day at night will go and they'll see the girls and hear them screaming in agony and pain.
Okay.
So that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on. Oh so the Gramley dormitory. A student hanged herself in the attic, and the way she did it, she had to pull a dresser across the library and to like weigh her down or something. And when she was pulling the dresser, it spilled a glass jar of marbles, and then she was able to hang herself. The dorm is only 2 stories high, so if you're in the 2nd story, the attic is immediately above you. And at night, people will hear the sounds of furniture dragging, marbles dropping, and scratching. Scratching. I don't know where the scratching comes from, but it's not like, oh, there's an animal above my head scratching. It's like creepy, ominous scratching, apparently.
And marbles dropping is such a specific sound.
Yeah, it like you don't mistake marbles dropping for like rain or anything. Like that's the glass marbles hitting the floor. No, thank you. So yeah, people believe that she replays her final moments over and over and over again every night. They also will see a man in black in the basement, and usually in the kitchen. And sometimes he's a full-bodied apparition. Other times he's black smoke. They haven't really interacted with him. He'll usually just disappear. Like, it's kind of like one of those things where you're coming down the hall and you'll look into the room while passing and you'll see him and you'll do the double take and he'll be gone, you know? Mm-hmm. So then moving on to the single sister's house, which again is the first building on campus. So on November 28th, 1873, so record of this, a 16-year-old student burned to death. She was playing the piano in the house when an ember from a nearby stove hopped onto her dress, and it grew, and then she realized that she was on fire, and instead of like stop, drop, and roll, she just ran throughout the entire house.
Oh.
The fire just grew and grew and grew, and I guess her clothes were very flammable, because back then it was probably just cotton or wool, you know?
Yeah, in that case, if you don't have water, try suppressing it, you know?
Yeah, eventually somebody nearby was able to, like, cover her and put the fire out. So she didn't die in that moment, but she did die that day.
Okay.
Yeah, so she probably had too many injuries, and she probably inhaled too much smoke, things like that. So people can actually, walking by, they'll see her in the windows looking out. Well, they'll see a woman in a period dress looking out the windows. Many people attribute it to her, and typically she's seen around 2 or 3 in the morning.
Mm.
Yeah. And I believe the single sister's house is one of the buildings that's locked up at night with no one inside. It's not a dorm or anything like that.
So when you pass by and you see somebody in the window, it's like...
You're not supposed to be there. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so the next one, I actually have a personal, not my personal story, but a story I found on the internet.
Okay.
So this is the Babcock Residence Hall, which always makes me think of the Babadook. It's tradition for students to say hello to the painting of the hall's namesake, Mary Babcock. Apparently her father was like a tobacco person or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But she was a student there, and so there's a giant painting of her in the entryway, and people have to say hello to her. If she feels disrespected, you'll get cursed.
Oh.
And so this curse is anything from thunderstorms, being very ill, being expelled, oversleeping and missing classes, or failing exams.
I love that. Or worse, expelled.
Yes. So her eyes will also follow you while you're walking by.
Spooky.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you seen that? Yeah, I think I made you watch it. I made everybody watch it. That one Halloween in my dorm. The haunted episode of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
No, I don't recall this at all.
Yeah. Okay. It was like she was a portrait in the room, but she turned her head to follow you. Oh, and oh my gosh, and then Esteban led a seance, and then she possessed him.
What?
This was such a good episode.
Oh my gosh, I don't think I've seen a full episode of Zack and Cody.
You know what you and I really need to do, because you can find it pretty easily. We need to do a little mini-sode. It would literally be a mini-sode about it, but we should do a little mini-sode for our Patreon after watching it.
Okay. All right.
Please.
So, the personal story. Yes. So, Aubrey Rodriguez, this was her YouTube name. So, I don't know if that's her actual name, but this is the name she put out on the internet a year ago, says, and this is edited for conciseness. I didn't change any of her words. I just cut out some words. Sometime after 3 a.m. one night, while my roommate was gone for the weekend, there was a loud banging sound on my AC unit, the kind that sits in your open window that has the accordion-like screens you pull open to cover the rest of the open window, which scared the crap out of me. I told myself that it was probably an animal, even though I was the floor above ground, and there weren't any trees close enough to the building for a squirrel or raccoon to get onto the roof, and while the thought of an owl or bat randomly running directly into the middle of the face of a multi-story building seems improbable, it wasn't impossible, I thought. I ignored it, but just moments later I heard growling sounds. It did not sound like animal growls, but it definitely didn't sound human. It was like a person with the deepest voice you can imagine just growling a few feet away right outside my window. I did have the TV on because I was watching a movie, so I muted it just to see if it was just a noise on the screen, but I heard the sound again, fracking loud and clear. That was her spelling, fracking.
Fracking?
Yes.
Drilling for oil in the ocean.
It's still so unreal to think about, and if I didn't have a witness, I would have been questioning whether or not it had actually happened for the rest of my life. But I know for sure I didn't imagine it, because as it was happening, I called my best friend in a terrified panic, who said that she heard the noises too over the phone. And 10 years later after the incident, she tells me it still freaks her out when she remembers that night, and it was some of the scariest crap she has ever heard.
I like that one, thank you.
You're welcome. You better like it.
Oh, okay. Well, I do, but now I want to rebel and say I don't.
Okay.
So.
I understand.
How boring.
All right. And then the next one is the Clewells dormitory. So a young girl fell down the elevator shaft and she died there.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and people think that she still haunts the building. after she died, there's some websites that say some other people died in the same shaft, so they just, like, boarded it up. Apparently...
I mean, was it just open for anybody to fall into?
Apparently the elevator wasn't as responsive, so the door will open and people will, like, walk in thinking the elevator's there.
Yeah, board that up. Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, the alternative could be get a better elevator. But no, they just bricked it up. So,
okay. I guess it's a possibility too.
But you can see the little girl walking around the halls at night. Students will lose a stuffed animal or toy, and then they'll find it days later at the boarded up elevator shaft. So people think that she's taking their toys and stuffed animals and stuff, playing with it, and then they'll find it at the elevator shaft. Kind of creepy. Kind of sad, kind of sweet, kind of creepy.
Yeah. All those. Yes. Yes.
So untouched items will fall off of desks. Students will come back to their dorms after classes and find some things rearranged, but only small things. So they think that she's not exactly the strongest of ghosts, because she's just a little girl. Mm-hmm. And then here's another YouTube comment of somebody talking about their experience. This is Eileen Trejo, 1 year ago. I was trying to read it exactly as she says it, but I'm going to kind of paraphrase in subjects because it's a YouTube comment, so people aren't exactly the most grammatically correct. Okay. So she used to see bathroom stalls open or slam shut, and when you look, there's nobody there.
Spooky.
Very spooky. Especially in the bathroom.
Oh, I get creeped out of bathrooms.
Yeah. I've been in bathrooms where there's like, oh my God, I just had like a memory of daycare spring up about a haunted bathroom. We'll have to talk about that in a mini-sode one day.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay.
Sorry. But in a bathroom, you're just so vulnerable, you know?
And, I mean, okay, there's two really big conduits, supposedly, for spirits in bathrooms. You got running water, and you got mirrors.
True.
And sometimes you're alone.
Yeah. And they usually don't have windows.
Yeah.
And if the lighting isn't that great.
And what if, like, you're, like, at the mirror and then the fluorescent light starts flickering?
Oh, no. I'm out.
I mean, I will wash
gone.
my hands. And then I am out.
But yes, so she also says that when you walk down the hall late at night, you just feel eyes staring at you. One time she had her door to her dorm. She calls it a dorm door. And I'm like,
it is a dorm door.
It is a dorm door, but a door to your dorm. It was slammed in her face when she was trying to walk in, and she was going to yell at her roommate before she realized that her roommate was not there. So
spooky.
Yeah, lots of doors slamming.
Whoever was occupying the dorm did not want her in there.
Exactly.
If it slammed in her face.
Exactly.
Oh, that's not good.
No.
Diana never did that to me.
Diana?
That's what we called the ghost in my dorm. I don't think I mentioned that in the episode. We named her Diana. She never slammed the door in my face.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you would have mentioned it if she
I would have totally mentioned that.
So then we're going to the Fine Arts Center, okay? Mm-hmm. So there is a ghost pianist who will play the piano. And
I'm sorry. Okay.
A pianist plays the piano. What? Yes. Yeah. And the organs.
What?
Yes, and the organs.
Okay.
And they...
Don't throw another instrument in there. I can't handle it.
No, just those two. But you can hear it outside the building, despite the building being locked and supposedly empty.
I like that. And
now, Robin, for my favorite personal story from this that I'm going to read word for word. I apologize if it's a little long. T. Franson, on January 11th, 2016, at 5:57 p.m., posted this.
Okay.
I was in the Fine Arts building taking an exam. We were graduate students, and the professor left, and the students were doing the tests themselves, as it was all essays and had to be original. I am a slow writer, and I left very late. It was a little after 11 p.m. I thought I would be locked in the building by security, so when I heard someone playing the very loud pipe organ in one of the theaters here, I was relieved. I wanted to...
I'm sorry.
Because they thought they were alone.
Yeah, but... Okay, I'm sorry. If the sound of a pipe organ is not soothing.
Well, I wanted to see if there was a class in there and who was playing at 11 p.m. I opened the door and walked into the inner door. I'm guessing he means like that little area post door. Anyway, I wasn't shocked when I walked in and all the lights were on, but no one was there, and I saw the keyboard and the pedals moving. He saw the keyboard and pedals moving.
And this wasn't a player piano.
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
I thought it might be some type of player organ or a software program that was doing the playing. I ran out since I felt very alone. It was very cold in the theater. I went out to my car, and I was the only car there. There was no one else around, and it was all very, very quiet. I ran to my car and left to go home very quickly. I called up the fine arts department the next day, and I inquired about the player organ. They told me that there was no such thing. It was a traditional old pipe organ only operated by a human. There was no human there when I looked at that night when it was playing. That really spooked me. This happened during the end of the fall 2010 semester.
I love that
Yes.
so much.
So my first thought when I read that story was, okay, you called and asked about the organ, but then I like put myself in his shoes and I'd be like, no, I'd be freaked out enough that I'd be like, yes, hello. So I was wondering about that player organ. Oh, it's just a normal organ. Okay, thanks, bye. You know, I would probably call too.
He probably called like a little bit worried, but mostly just wanting to know so we didn't have to worry anymore. Mm-hmm. And then the opposite happened. Mm-hmm. Oh, man. Poor T is his name? Poor T.
Probably her name because poor it is a women's college.
Poor her T.
Her T, probably Herties. What? Because Herties, like hurts.
Aw.
Oh.
Poor Hertie. Yes.
So that was my final story. Oh, wait, sorry. One extra snippet.
We got an extra.
In that same building, a patron who died in the theater is still seen in the audience. And he apparently likes to play pranks on students and spook them. So, like, they'll come around a corner and see his face and they'll freak out and then he's gone. Like, he just likes to play pranks on them and do jump scares at them. So, but yes. So that is Salem College. Thanks again for Tea and Terror for the rec.
Yes, thank you very much, Tea and Terror. That was delightful. Thank you, Zoe.
You're welcome.
Okay. Zoe, are you ready for my story?
I am.
I am covering the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, a.k.a. my alma mater part 2.
Oh, right. I think you did mention about something about going to that college once.
Once in a blue moon. Yeah. Okay, so... 'Twas many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea.
Okay.
When a maiden lived there, whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. Now, Zoe and listeners, you may be asking yourself,
why are you talking about Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe?
Something like that. You might be saying, Robin, this is not a literature podcast. And to you, I say, one, this is a storytelling podcast. And there is no literature without stories. And two, it relates. So, there are quite a few buildings haunted at UNCG. I have tailored this list. And by tailored, I mean I just took out one that had like one haunting. And I was like, get out of here. So I'm going to tell you about a few buildings with a few hauntings. Mm-hmm. The first is Spencer Residence Hall. Mm-hmm. So Spencer Residence Hall at UNCG has a ghost who, in the 1960s, was known as the Blue Ghost or the Woman in Blue. But she became known as Annabel in the 1980s, and they think that she was actually named for Annabel Lee from the poem by Edgar Allan Poe.
I see. Okay.
Yes, so we have seen this before in your story. We've seen this before in previous of these Haunted College Tour episodes. This is another part where the idea is she is a student who committed suicide on campus. Mm-hmm. There is no record of this. My guess is, here's my theory for why this keeps happening. My guess is there are spooky things that happen on campus, and for some reason, everybody creates this backstory.
Right.
It's just a go-to backstory. I'm not exactly sure why. But there's no record that she killed herself on campus, but it is rumored that she hanged herself from a bell tower. And okay, so one of the first things I learned about UNCG was that you weren't supposed to walk under one of the two bell towers. In fact, when you see the bell tower, there are steps that go around it. Like, on the ground, there are, like, sticker steps or painted steps, and they go around it. And I have been there during a class change when it's really crowded, and that bell tower parts people like the Red Sea. Nobody goes under it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's related.
I now want to go under that bell tower.
Oh, gosh. But it was never explained to me why you don't go under there, except for, like, bad luck.
Okay.
But I wonder if it is... I think those two things have to be connected, you know?
Right.
Yeah, it only makes sense. But she is described as a blue shadow or a blue haze who shows up in Spencer's parlor and once near the laundry room, just so you know.
Okay.
And she was seen by one person of the staff especially. They were working in the summer of 1976, and this was a time when, you know, in general, there's no students around, so, like, nobody else was in the building, and they heard the sound of dragging from the lobby. Like, something was dragging in the lobby when nobody else was supposed to be there. And they believe it was Annabelle.
Ugh.
Yes. Or at that point, I guess, the blue woman, depending on what they were calling her. Now, she also throws things around. There aren't many other appearances of Annabelle, but I don't know. I wanted to bring her in here because I think there's something very interesting about Residence Hall ghosts.
Yeah.
And also I wanted an excuse to just tell you the first stanza of Annabel Lee as an intro.
Okay.
I'm just telling you things now.
I love that poem too, so I believe I agree with you. I once had to memorize it.
Oh, yeah?
For class.
What class?
One of my English classes, probably.
Well, I guess that makes sense. Okay, I was just wondering if it was a shared English class.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So the next building I give you, it is now called UNCG Auditorium.
Okay.
But it used to be called ACOC Auditorium.
ACOC Auditorium?
AYCOCK.
Okay.
ACOC Auditorium.
I can see why they changed the name.
No, that wasn't why they changed the name.
Oh, okay.
It was named after former North Carolina governor and white supremacist Charles Aycock, but was renamed in 2016 to UNCG Auditorium.
I see. He sounds like a real bad person.
Yeah?
Aycock. If you want to...
Okay. So, there is a drama professor named Raymond Taylor who worked at the university from 1921 to 1960, and he worked in what is now the UNCG auditorium for most of that time. And he is adamant, or was adamant, I don't know if he's still around, that there is a ghost in the building.
Okay.
He says that a woman lived in a mansion on the spot of the UNCG auditorium before it was built, and that she hanged herself. And that she now haunts the building.
Okay.
Yes. He said that he's experienced her in quite a few ways, one of which as a light that moves along the ceiling and makes noise like dragging chains from the lobby to the door of his office.
Okay, you said the light, and I was like, oh, that sounds peaceful.
And then the dragging chains.
Yeah, no.
Honestly, it kind of sounds like there's a few things going on, but he attributes it all to one ghost, and I mean... I vaguely might have possibly been in the building once, but I can't remember for sure, so I don't know.
And I doubt she hanged herself using chains. It's usually like a rope or something like that. So if the sound of chains...
Yeah, I'm really not sure where the chains are coming from.
It makes me think of, well, first Ebenezer Scrooge, and then secondly...
Yeah, I know. I got major Scrooge vibes, too.
Really?
Well, just because not Bob Marley.
Bob Marley.
I'm sorry, what was his... Jacob Marley?
I honestly...
Who was his partner?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot the name and called him Bob Marley. So at night, I'm still going with the stories, though.
Okay.
At night, he would try to rationalize the sounds he heard. But one night in particular, he just couldn't do that. He was working late, and a colleague named Jimmy Hogue and he were talking in his office when the door opened. It's like midnight. Nobody else is there. And it immediately got cold, and they both heard the sound of chains going down the hallway away from them, as if it had just passed by.
Yeah, that's a demon.
Well, I don't think I ever saw a point in, like, these articles where he went out and looked after the chains, but I'm like, if you hear chains, just beep your head out to see
Just
what's up.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he ever did, and I don't know if he saw anything if he did. So another time, he says that he and a janitor were setting up for a play on a day when the building was locked to the outside. Mm-hmm. And it was hot, and they decided to take off some of their clothes.
It's getting hot in here.
So hot. And so they just go around and do their work setting up in, less clothes than typical. And it's storming outside, by the way. That's just important because storms make everything creepier.
Yes.
And when he went to get his clothes back after he was done working, he saw that somebody had moved them around. They weren't in a nice pile, but thrown everywhere. And then he had a watch chain, and it was moved to resemble a cross.
Okay.
And he thinks it was this ghost.
Okay. A cross or an upside down cross demon?
Well, I mean, it was on a table, so I guess it depends on what angle you're looking at it.
Exactly.
So I was thinking, because it sounds... I mean, I don't know if this woman existed, or if this mansion existed, or if anything existed. It might have. I don't know. But I'm getting a very sinister vibe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know if a demon would be able to make a cross. I don't know
An
how
upside
this
down
works.
cross.
Possibly. Ooh, creepy.
Very.
Students call the ghost Jane Acock, and have made up a backstory for her that has no basis in fact,
Okay.
but I do admire the creativity.
Can you share it?
Yeah.
Okay.
They say that she is the daughter of Charles Acock, and that she hanged herself there in the auditorium.
Of course.
It's not true. She never existed.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So everybody's coming up with stories, but I almost admire the storytellingness of it.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I liked the collective storytelling.
Yes.
Good there. They do a fun prank to incoming students. So the drama students will take a freshman up to the attic and give them a burning candle.
Uh-huh.
And they stay there in the darkness, and they stay in an area where, like, kind of wind gets through and they know it'll blow out the candle. And so they're, like, waiting and watching until the flame goes out. Inevitably, it does. And then the Frenchman...
The Frenchman?
Oui.
Oui. Je m'appelle Zoey.
Je m'appelle Zoey.
Your name's also Zoey?
Je m'appelle Zoey. See? Then the freshmen will look up after the candle has gone out, and they will see a glowing body. It is a mannequin that the drama students painted with glow-in-the-dark paint.
Oh.
So it's a prank.
Yes.
And it doesn't. But I just found that
funny. Yes.
I mean, I
too find Frenchmen funny.
I don't know. It's so, of course that happens. It's just such a perfect prank.
Yeah. And I love it when, like, students actually embrace, like, this school is haunted.
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
The camaraderie of it.
Exactly.
I mean, in this case, they are hazing. Well, maybe not hazing is, like, the right word. But you're like playing a trick on somebody.
Yeah,
so
but I feel like that one's an okay prank. 'Cause,
yeah.
like, they're scared, but, like, if they process it for 2 seconds later, they're like, oh, haha, okay. It's not, like, ruining someone's livelihood, you know?
So I saw this video on the internet several years ago of a prank that was pulled. The idea is you step into an elevator, and you're going up, and then all of a sudden the lights go out.
Right.
And the girl is dressed in, like, the creepiest, like, a little girl dressed in the creepiest dressed, like, makeup, hair, crazy, all that kind of stuff. She comes out of the wall and stands there. So when the lights turn on, she is right there. I think that's too much.
That's too much. Because you're trapped in a small room.
And you know what? Fear does things to your body.
Yeah.
Like, you could die from something like that.
Yeah,
honestly.
you could have a heart attack, technically, yeah.
Yeah.
I would feel bad for that actress because, first of all, they didn't sign up for this, so it's non-consensual. And so if this little girl comes out, I've seen people, like, kick people like that before,
Oh, yeah,
you know?
yeah, you can't be... Who knows what would happen? And it's not like the person's fault for...
Yeah. Because I saw one of the elevator pranks. Luckily, it wasn't, like, a little girl. It was a grown person. Mm-hmm. But it was a boyfriend and girlfriend. They were in the elevator, and when the beast came out, the creature, the ghost, whatever, the guy, like, pelted this man until he was curled up on the ground, stand over at him until the doors opened, made sure his girlfriend got out, and then followed her running. And it's like, everybody on the internet were like, like, he's such a great man. He's, like, saved his girlfriend. He stood on top of this thing to make sure.
But he's a person.
But that's a person.
Yeah.
And he had no way of knowing that. Mm-hmm. But the fact that, so, like, honestly, that's kind of what the spooker gets, you know? It's one thing if it was a haunted house that they signed up for, you know?
Yeah.
But it's a totally different thing if it's, like, a random apartment building.
Oh, totally. Yeah. There was, before we get back to this, one more thing about pranks. There was a perfect prank I saw, and I think I'm not the first person to call it a perfect prank, but it's, this guy goes into a porta potty. Then they bring up, like, they wheel a shed to the door, and then they bring in a conference table, chairs, all these people in business suits and stuff. So when he comes out of it, he just sees all these people. And then, like, the guy at the head of the table goes like, what?
And all
what
the
people, are you doing here? Get out of here.
And all the people at the table look at him like, excuse me. And he, like, looks back into the porta
potty. And he's just so confused. That is a great prank.
Because it causes confusion, not terror.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But, like, I love that.
Yes.
Okay, now on to ghosts.
Yes.
Mary Faust Residence Hall was built in 1928, 3 years after its namesake died after childbirth. Mary had attended the college, graduating just 5 years before her death, and she was a daughter of a president of the university, Julius Isaac Faust. There is also a building named after Julius Isaac Faust. I have been in it, I have looked at it, and by golly, that thing is creepy, in my opinion.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Have I looked at it?
You probably passed it.
Probably. Yeah. I didn't notice, but it was so long ago that I don't really remember at
There's
this
a good
point.
chance that if you and I passed it together, I would have been like, don't you think that looks haunted? Because honestly, my first trip to UNCG, I was, like, walking around campus, and I was like, that building looks just very haunted. But it was only barely mentioned in here, so I didn't really mention any occurrences. I just want everybody to know that I actually like being in the building, but it is a bit spooky, in my opinion.
Yes.
Okay. So, but Mary Faust, it's a residence hall, and there is a portrait of her in the parlor, and kind of similar to your thing where if you don't say hi to her, she gives you bad luck. But in this case, if you touch the portrait, it gives you bad luck. Oh. Yeah. So you don't have to say hi to her, but if you, like, are touching it. Zoe's miming just putting her paws all over the portrait. Now, here are how people experience hauntings in there. They think it's Mary.
Okay.
I think they think it's Mary. Yeah, I think they think it's Mary. People will hear crying and odd sounds in the building. And RA said that she felt like there was someone else in her room, even though she bunked alone. Mm-hmm. And she would feel cold air as she tried to sleep. And in fact, the words, "bless this room," appeared upside down on the frame of a board that was on her door. Oh. And she did not write that.
Huh.
Yeah. Now, I do think it said a frame of a board that was on her door, and so maybe it was on the outside, and also, like, anybody can write anything on these things, but that is a weird phrase.
Yeah.
Yep. One person was showering in the communal bathroom. No one else was in the room, but when the shower turned on without anyone having walked in, there came a moaning sound from the shower.
Mm-mm.
I know, that was my first thought too, but her thought was ghost.
Okay.
And she didn't hear anybody walking. So it's just like nobody was there, and then the shower's on, and then it's like, oh. So apparently this isn't the first time it's happened. She knew enough about it from hearing stories to know that she wanted to leave. So she just ended her shower, got out of there. But apparently this is a thing that happens in Mary Faust. And here is a little urban legend.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a pair of double doors that are always locked by the maintenance staff. And there was a night a while ago.
Wow. A night?
There was a night.
Oh, I'm sorry. You mean N-I-G-H-T.
Oh, yeah.
When you said it, for some reason, I was thinking K-N.
Why would I say there was a night?
That's a really long time ago.
There's never been a night in the U.S. I think. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's like a Sir.
Yeah.
Like Paul McCartney came to Columbia, but.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, there was a night when they were unlocked.
Okay.
So, like, obviously, these doors that are always locked are unlocked. You go through the doors.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yeah. So, there's a story that a group decided to do a Ouija board in that room. And they were doing the Ouija board, and nothing happened in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But afterward, one brought the board back to their room, and it started going haywire. Went from letter to letter, spelling out things so quickly that they couldn't see what it said.
Oh, wow.
And after that, whoever had the Ouija board in their possession, bad things would happen to them.
Ooh.
It has since been called the portal to hell.
Oh, of course.
The double doors.
Okay.
Yeah.
So lock me in those double-doored area and see how long I last. Okay.
Very happy to do that.
Okay.
Now, I have a few personal experiences that I'm going to read to you. I found them on the UNCG Special Collections and University Archive blog on a post that was talking about campus ghosts.
Okay.
This first comment is from somebody named Dork Knight. I'm sure that is their official name, and actually it's Knigt.
Oh, look at that.
So, yes. So
I
Dork
have future
Knight,
sight.
room 313 in Mary Faust.
Okay.
Many times, maybe 6 or 8 during a semester, I would wake up at 1 or 2 a.m. to the sound of footsteps on the ceiling of my floor, the top floor just under the short attic space. The footsteps would start at one end of the hall and get louder and louder until they felt like they passed right over my room and then went down to the other end of the floor. This would go on for half an hour or more. Many people heard the footsteps, and on a few occasions, after students called to complain, the campus police would come to the dorm, unlock the access panel to the ceiling space, and go up to find nothing. This was crazy because the only people with the key to the lock were the police and the dorm's married, with a newborn baby, residence manager. Neither the cops nor alive...
Neither of the cops are alive? Oh, no!
That's not what happened. I need a sip of Coke. Neither the cops nor our live-in dorm manager had any reasons to be in the attic space stomping around for 30 minutes at 2 a.m. And a real human wouldn't be able to stomp around in the dark attic anyway, not without hitting their head or tripping on a floor joist repeatedly. One morning, both my roommate and I, and his overnight girlfriend guest, woke up at 6 a.m. to the loudest noise we had ever heard in the room. It sounded like a car wrecked into the ceiling of room 213, which was directly beneath room 313, which is their room. The noise was so loud it nearly scared us to death. Later that day, I met the 2 girls who were in room 213 and asked them what they did to make the loud noise in their room at 6 a.m. They looked at me and were totally confused. They were both awake and getting ready for an early class around 6 a.m., and they heard nothing. These were not jokey, pranky type of girls. They were serious about college and had no reason to make a giant noise under room 313 and then lie about it. My roommate decided to stay in his GF's room the rest of the semester after that.
Oh, wow. Good for you. You get an extra...
That would be like, but now you're alone in a haunted room.
Yeah. And you didn't have to tell us that they weren't jokey types of girls if they were up at 6 a.m.
Yeah. I mean, okay, the earliest class I had was actually, I think the earliest class you could have at USC. It was 8:05. I had an 8:05.
Yeah. I had an 8:30 once, and that was terrible.
I'm happy I did my 8:05 because the professor was great, and that was the only reason I did the 8:05, because I heard she was amazing, and she was. Mm-hmm. But So for me, it was worth it, but also I would get there and be like, okay, now I need to wake up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did have to do the opening shift at Strom, which is the gym. Mm-hmm. And I knew you knew what Strom was, but yeah. And that shift started at 5:45.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Or was it 4:45?
Oh.
I had to wake up at 4.
That's awful. Yeah. I don't consider 4 in the morning. I consider 5 and up, you're officially in the next day.
Right.
But 4:59 and down, you are in the previous day in my book. So that's really sad. So.
I get up at 4:45 every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
That's awful. I admire your commitment, though.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So here is an anonymous comment I found
on
that blog. When I lived on the 3rd floor... Oh, this is about Gray Hall, by the way, which is the residence hall there. When I lived on the 3rd floor, I would see both shadows of people and people walk past my window. So they're seeing shadows and people.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But it's on the 3rd floor.
Oh.
So it's saying it's walking past.
Okay.
It took me a couple reads to get that, so I just needed to let you know. One night, I had also heard someone unlock my door and come in. I thought it was just my roommate because I saw a person in my peripheral vision that looked like my roommate. But when I turned to ask her how her night was, there was no one there, and the door was still locked. Other times, I'd see reflections in the mirrors of people that were not in the room or outside the windows, and even if there was someone outside, the position of the image wouldn't have been right. I guess I just wanted to put it out there that I feel there are more ghosts on the UNCG campus than just the ones in Aycock Auditorium and Mary Faust and North Spencer. They may be undocumented, but I think they are there. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. Look at this person changing up the narrative.
Exactly.
And there's one more experience I want to tell you, and because it relates a little bit, because there was like some weirdness with reflections and people who were there versus not there. This person commented, in their room in the Reynolds dorm, they saw, quote, a person in the room and their reflection in the window, end quote. They figured they were seeing things in the dark, and so they turned on the light, but by turning on the light, they discovered that the person was still there and looking at them. So, like, imagine you're, like, waking up in the dark, you think you see a person, you think you see a reflection. Most of the time when you turn on the light, you see the thing that was, like, making you think that, and it rationalizes it for you. When you turn on the light, it's just...
the person staring at you.
Isn't that terrifying?
What happened after that?
You know, they didn't say.
Did they die?
You know what? I'm checking. Actually. Yeah, they just ended there. By the way, that person who commented was named Prix. Prix.
Okay. So, I'm going to assume that they died and their ghost wrote that.
Their ghost wrote that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because, I mean, I would have at least... pooped the bed, like.
Oh, that's terrifying. Okay. Just needed you to know that. Anyway, if you liked today's episode,
yes,
please like, subscribe, review, and share with a friendo, because that is the best way to get the word about the podcast you like out there to other people who would listen to them.
Yes. And if you want to see Robin and I's sources for today's episode, and we'll figure out how we're going to write the blog later.
I got an idea about that.
Okay. You can go to hauntedhospitality.wordpress.com. Also, if you want to share your own stories, especially college stories, please get that over to us at hauntedhospitalitypodcast@gmail.com. These can be spooky or true crime stories. Well, true crime is part of spooky, but yes.
But yes.
Yes.
If you are in the Twitter sphere, you can find us at Haunted Hosts. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at Haunted Hospitality. We hope to see you there.
Stay in school and stay spooky.